Here's something worth knowing about. A lot of indie agencies hit the same wall. The work's coming in, but you don't have the team to deliver it all without blowing out margins or burning people out. That's where Sonnet comes in. They've been doing this for 20 plus years, working 100% white label behind the scenes for more than 50 agencies worldwide. SEO, paid media, your brand, their delivery. It's a way to scale without adding headcount. Check them out at sonnet.digital. All right, everybody. Hope you're having a good, let's just say day. Doug Zanger, Indie Agency News, founder, editor-in-chief. Thanks so much for joining us. To all of our members, thank you so much for supporting this mission. Our brief, we get to the mission here in a second. The brief, build the global home for independent agencies. The mission, serve independent agencies and the brilliant people behind them. Our goal is more visibility for indies, more choice for marketers. To learn more, go to indieagency.news/join. People have asked us, why do you do so much video? Well, we think of ourselves more as broadcasters and less as traditional trades. We were in the trades, Kyle and I, or is it me and Kyle? Adweek, The Drum. I was a blogger for Ad Age back in 2004. That's how far back I go. And by the color of my hair, you can see that for sure. I've been around a minute. Here's the thing, though, is that we love the thinking of our members. And why we do shows like this is because it gives our members a chance to share their expertise. Now, here's where we're going with this today. Every marketer trusts their dashboard. But what happens when you walk through the customer journey yourself? You click the ad, you fill out the form, you buy the product and discover that half of what your data says is wrong? It happens. Today, we're joined by Robert Douglas and Boris Litvinov from Left Off Madison. This is one of our OG members, built by former Dentsu and WPP veterans who have made data auditing a core discipline. Now, what they're going to do is walk us through their buy your own product methodology and show us what breaks when you're testing the thing you are selling. If you've ever wondered whether your attribution numbers are telling the truth, this is the conversation that you need to hear. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to start with this. When you first sit down with a new client and start looking under the hood of their marketing tech stack, what would you say is the typical state of things? Paint us the before picture. Boris, why don't we start with you on that?
Oh God, I was going to let Rob soften the blow.
I mean, he could. Rob, it's up to you.
Rob's the yin to my yang, so he'll come in softer. But typically this is across the board for anything. We get a brief, or hey, can you take a look at what's wrong with my problem? It's a lot of we're doing a lot of things really well, and things are really working. And then we have a very pragmatic way of approaching our audits. It's not about just taking at face value what you're being told and what you're being showed. It's really going under the hood and answering 4 real questions, which is around measurement. Are we trusting what we're being told, and are we trusting what we're seeing? An acquisition standpoint, are they generating demand efficiently? What does efficiently actually mean to them, and how does it compare to their competitors or other benchmarks? Conversion, is traffic turning into revenue, or are they just breaking even? And then retention, if it's a retention based client, like, are they getting customers back? Are they maximizing that customer value? Those are like really the 4 core pillars. I tend to spend the most of my time in measurement and like MarTech stack, which is really like tracking analytics, media platforms, CRM, CDP, e-commerce, conversion rate optimization. Rob's more creative testing, and then business intelligence and attribution. And these in the MarTech stack, where we are today in the digital world, nothing ever talks to each other unless you force it to talk to each other. And what we're finding out is that a lot of brands, especially on the small to mid size, they can't figure out how to get everything to talk to each other. So they're really just seeing one piece of the picture versus the whole artwork, if you will.
Yeah, and Rob, I want to get into that. I want you to follow up on what Boris was saying here, but another issue because of the complexity of all of this. I recall from slightly earlier days this idea of viewability and for let me put it to you this way: for every company or individual that says this is all garbage, there's going to be a counter argument saying no, it's not, and here's why. I mean, honestly, like, what should we be believing in any of this? I mean, it's just, because it just gets so confusing, and I have to imagine that marketers and CMOs are probably exhausted by it all.
Yep. Yeah, and we deal with that every single day. We have one client in particular that had been totally reliant on retailers for sales, and they a couple of years ago shifted to add in direct to consumer to their business, their sales channels. And as we process that, then it became of like, again, what's that single source of truth? We've all sort of corralled around. Okay, we decided, even though it's not going to give us the perfect answer, we've all aligned that this device or this measurement tool is going to be at least our default for now until we get a better solution to how to get to that. Secondly, we've had another client that has spent a lot of time trying to evaluate, say, the whole Meta platform, and why are we getting, we're getting all this website traffic, but they're there for 1 second or less. It must be a bunch of bots. How do we, combat that? So we turn off Meta for 2, 3, 4 months, and their sales are dropping off. So it's like, to go back to your point, Doug, it's like, how do you know what's working or what's not? So it took us time, arguments, testing to say, like, in that Meta platform, how are we really setting up our KPIs and goals? If it's click through is our goal, maybe that's the wrong one, or website traffic, that's the wrong one. So maybe it's about a totally different metric that we're going to now judge that platform with. But it only comes with having somebody on your side, like somebody like a Boris, to lean into, who can really call it what it is and be like, this is BS or not BS, and here's how we can adjust and go forward.
Remember, Rob, back in the day, it was insertion orders, and then you just sat and waited. You went and got You went and got a 9 martini lunch.
And they only and then they told you the only time that they ever told you there was an error in the printing is when you found it.
Oh,
and you had to show it back to them.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Let's talk a bit about the buy your own product audit in practice, what the process looks like from start to finish, and what do you find that let's walk us through the process and then talk about what dashboards are consistently missing. Rob, I want to stick with you, and then we'll bounce it over to
and it's actually, that works out perfectly too, because I kind of have more of this front end story, and it's one of the things that we have done, and it's sort of tripped into it several years ago. But what we literally do is it's like act like a customer. So yeah, I know it's a little bit difficult if you're selling automobiles, you're going to force your agency to go buy, but it really does come down to really understanding every aspect of your client's business and understanding what the consumer journey really feels like, and whether there are parts of that journey, it's not just the website and the information architecture, but is my journey broken, disrupted, problematic, whatever it is. All of that is going to feed into, in our world, it's going to be Boris and his team in understanding the back-end analytics, what's working and what's not. So not a couple of years ago, it became very something we shared back to our client. It was like, we're a strong believer in buying our clients products and then gifting them out during the holidays or birthdays or whatever. But it was like we were trying to buy a particular device, and it literally took an entire month for that device to get to my house. And I reported back to the client being like, this was kind of like a really crappy experience. And they had no idea. They had no idea that was it, and they went and fixed it. Secondly, same client, different product. I was trying to order two of the same device on e-commerce, and it wouldn't take the second device. It just would not. I had to do an entirely different, and I brought it up to them. And what it turned out is they had I think it was their Shopify or something like that, was just set wrong, and so customers could only buy. So, well, no wonder your shopping cart always had an average of 1.0 or 1.1. No
Right.
wonder. So they
Yeah.
fixed that, and sure enough, two or more. But that segues perfectly into Boris, because if you don't really dive in, and the media team and the analytics teams, they're not going to dive in. Somebody has to dive in.
Yeah.
And then Boris can pick it up from here to answer the second part of your question.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, the funny thing is, like, no brand has ever failed because they have a lack of tools, right? Like,
Mm.
all the tools, especially for like small, medium-sized businesses, like a lot of the tools that we see that are being used are free or very close to being free, right? Like Google Analytics, yes, you can get the premium, but even setting it up the basic way to properly capture the right events, to make sure those events are captured properly, these things are like not being done, and they're basing a lot of business decisions off of those broken events. So, you're making a huge decision on dirty data. Your media mix is unbalanced because you really can't tell your agency what's really working. The website's not converting as well as it can be. Maybe the website speed, on desktop is great, but majority of purchases are happening on these things right now on mobile
Right.
devices, and you come to find out, like, holy shit, it takes 30 seconds for my website to load, and people are backing out, and it's like, oh, my bounce rate is huge. So it's like there's a lot of cause and effect with technology where we see, and again, this is, some of the clients that we work with bootstrapped it initially and just never fixed it, or they're paying bigger agencies or larger agencies to do this, and they're not capturing it because the scope is coming in, and everybody's happy. So,
Mhm.
when it comes down to the audit of the MarTech stack, we go through each channel. For example, Google Analytics, what are the most important events that you guys are capturing? Let us figure out how those events are currently set up within Google Analytics and who they're actually talking to. Are they being imported into Shopify? Are they, are you getting first party data from HubSpot and then reusing it on your CRM lists, right? Like, very pragmatically, we have to go step by step. And the two biggest places I would say we capture a lot of issues, one is this analytics piece, because it could be extremely complicated, especially if you're an e-commerce provider and you have your own store. There's a million items. It just seems like it's never ending. And the second piece is marketing platforms, like setting up Google Ads, setting up Meta Ads, or any of the self-service platforms. A lot of them have these conversion API integrations, and we just see so many of them incorrectly installed, where at the end of the day, the feedback loop that's supposed to be occurring with your media is actually not occurring. And Facebook and all these platforms that are meant to help you really only care about you spending that budget for whatever that daily budget or that
Mhm,
monthly budget
mhm.
that you set. They're not going to keep flagging, hey, something's wrong. It's up to you as a business to figure out, like, why is this working, why is this not working, and then how can we fix it.
I'll keep you here, Boris, because I want to talk a little bit about the most common tracking failure that no one really catches, and the one that may be silently draining budget month after month. I mean, we've covered a lot of things here, but is there a common tracking failure that should be job number one?
Yeah, I think in 2026, there's a lot of, you've even written about a lot of these conversations with the Googles of the world. These are all walled gardens. They're getting rid of what I call very traditional tracking methods of cookies, and they're creating either conversion APIs or server side tracking. Those are the two that are, I would say, the most important for any marketing campaign to really make sure that it's implemented correctly and it's QA'd correctly. Because with Apple iOS, you can't track anybody now. Cookies are going away for the 100th year in a row that Google says it. These are all things that are extremely important, and they're typically the ones that get the least love. And I believe it's the least love because the specialization that it requires can be off-putting to people who are general tech nerds, if you will, or those who work on
Right, right.
analytics won't touch ads tracking because they're like, this is too much, when in reality it's all interconnected. And it experience is one thing, but B, some of the installation or the guides that a lot of these media platforms provide, it really uses a lot of terminology that is not seen in analytics or somewhere else, right? It's very
Right,
specific to
right.
coding. It's very specific to, implementation. So, you know, and again, if you don't have those two things right, it just, your whole cookie crumbles.
Yeah.
Can I-
Rob, you need to chime in, young man.
Yeah. And I think the thing that I think that might get overlooked in what Boris just talked through is, if anybody's listening or watching this video right now, it's like this problem that Boris just painted the picture of is not happening with these startups or small companies. We're finding it with massive companies. And it's fundamentally the massive companies, medium-sized companies, and small companies. They're all suffering from this massive problem. And unless they have a staff of 5, 6, 7 experts who are just solely focused on this, and that's only going to be a minority group. Maybe I'll call it the P&Gs and maybe General Motors of the world might have that kind of crew. But for the other 99% of the companies that are out there, they don't have this talent or skill in-house, and they're going to have to be really, and if they're not working with an agency that has the talent and skills and comfort and collaboration mindset to solve these problems, it's never going to get a problem. So
Right.
they need to make sure that if they're not going to hire these experts, and it's not just a generalist who knows a little bit about everything, it's going to be it's going to be leaning on to somebody that they can trust and evaluate for their tech stack and making sure everything is seamlessly working.
Yeah.
And this is always like a ongoing process, right? New things
Right.
keep getting added. Like
Oof.
Google now is trying to add the Google Tag Cloud Gateway, which is another way that they can verify your conversions. And a lot of clients seem to think that their e-commerce platforms like a Shopify are the be-all end-all of attribution, when it's not, right? It's very last click based. In many cases, a lot of the tracking gets removed before that person makes that conversion because it's
Mhm.
happening on Shopify's own checkout. And this is really not understood. And so what typically happens is bad feedback goes back into the platforms. We optimize the wrong way, and then worse performance ends up occurring versus how you originally were optimizing. So it just, to show that it's never ending, it's constantly always being on top of like, what is the cleanest way to get the data that I'm seeking, especially for e-commerce brands who rely on D2C sales.
Right. Let's finish up with this, and then we're going to do a little quick hit here. 2 parts to this one. So a lot of our agencies are, yourselves included, it's not a 2,000 person team with unlimited resources. I mean, you're talking, it could be a team of 15 with limited resources. Number one, how can they build this kind of audit discipline into their standard process without it becoming a massive time sink? And then the second part of this, what's coming in marketing measurement that indie agencies should be getting ready for now that no one's really talking about? Boris, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think I'll answer the second part. Rob can address the first part. Tracking is never ending, evolving. I would say for today's methodology, there's a lot of brands that are doing very simplified MTA, multi-touch attribution, or mixed media modeling that doesn't break the bank. With all of these things, and I say this not only for things that we provide, but any agency provider, any solution provides, it is the closest you will get. Is it the final answer? It's never the final answer. Marketing's always looking to get better, smarter, faster, quicker, and cheaper at the end of the day. So I would say, like, if you really don't have a way to clearly attribute or to clearly track, there are dozens of companies that their sole purpose is to help you figure out tracking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Rob?
Yeah, that was just that last part that Boris just said. There's people or entities out there that their whole job is about tracking. But even on top of that, it's really looking at your looking at the resources that that indie agency may have in the context of like, who is your web developer and what's their, if there is a web development side of your team that's doing that. And then also talk to the client and understand what tools and resources they may have. Like, let me give you an example. We a new client of ours, and that client is very, all this digital marketing is very foreign to her and her team. So they rely on a team. Somewhere along the way, they picked up a team that's managing out of India. And it turned out that we ran into all these problems that they just simply had challenges and difficulty fixing for whatever reason. So we're leaning into it now, jumping in as the new auto mechanic to fix it. But so my point is that the answer doesn't lie outside of the U.S. markets and going in down that path. There's a tremendous amount of talent pool in the United States, and it's really about evaluating these people, whether you're hiring them ad hoc or permanently to provide this counsel. But they need to have a mix of web experience. They're going to need to have experience of media, experience of digital media experiences, analytics and reporting kind of experience. And there are plenty of talented people out there, especially in Doug, you've viewed in this industry as a whole. There's the layoffs that are occurring, but there's a lot of talent out there that can be brought in and looped in. And I would make that my low hanging fruit for my peers and colleagues here at Indie Agency.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. And it's a Shonda, what's going on. But at the same time, it'll be really nice, to find some of those people, to your point, of like extraordinarily specialized that indies would need right now, because there are a lot of people who, as someone mentioned this earlier, it's, you don't, the idea of a generalist who knows a lot about a lot of things, but being able to source those people who know quite a bit about one very specific thing is going to be really critical. All right, let's do a couple of quick hits here. The percentage of marketing data that you trust at first glance. Broadly.
30%.
How much?
30%. I'm
30,
nice.
and Rob says 0?
I'll give it 20%.
20%. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's ominous. The first thing a CMO should audit in their tech stack right now.
Pixels.
And why?
If they are investing heavily into media and setup is not correct, and again, I say pixels broadly, it could be conversion API or however the method to actually tracking, to make sure that the output is what you are seeing on your back end. If it's not, there's something broken in your tech stack that is either inflating or underrepresenting what the true value is of a specific sale or purchase.
All right, Rob.
That's my number one answer too, but just to give an alternative one for anybody that might be viewing this, is I would also take a look at the ROI and whatever is going to come back as an ROI. Because again, not everybody's D2C, direct to consumer, selling e-commerce. So for all those CPG companies and beer companies and whatever, being able that they can make sure that they really truly are understanding who that audience is that's buying, so that they can get the flywheel effect.
I like that. All right. Well, gentlemen, and might I point out, Rob has his Techniques shirt on. EAH 800. I'm just going to tell you right now, the Techniques EAH 800 is a wonderful piece of kit. And I have to say that what was amazing about it is not only, and I'm not reading something, this is like not hashtag ad, but it might be a little bit, I don't care, because these are amazing headphones. The number one, the battery lasts forever. Secondly, and 1A, the range and the depth. Techniques is known for like high quality. And when I was in radio, I had Sony cans. I had like all the like high end. It just sounds good. These are incredibly comfortable. They're light. I took them on oh my God, I had a vacation, and being able to wear these around and not feeling any fatigue, whether because of the ear cups or because of the weight of the entire product. It's just top quality stuff. So EAH 800 is what you're going to go and get from Techniques. My hand to God. And I've been doing radio and audio for a very long time, so I might have a thing or two to say about all this. I don't have a discount code for you, but you know.
Talk to Boris.
Yeah. Can we make this the official headphone of Indie Agency News?
We'll talk to them.
All right, go talk to him. Go talk to him.
We'll cross it over with also their speakers and their
whatever works. If they want to be the official sound, whatever, that's fine. I love that. I love that. I love all their products, and love the both of you for being some of the OG members. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today, and
thank you.
Looking forward to paths crossing.